Get ready.
What you are looking at is the original release of the Vintage Collection 501st Trooper that came out about 10 years ago. And this one has always been, to me, the poster boy for the ridiculously large helmets on the modern Clone Trooper mold. This looks absolutely friggin' ridiculous. I have no idea what they were thinking. I think it looks awful, and this is personally one of my very least favorite 501st Troopers. So, when I heard that they were re-releasing it, I wasn't that excited, but let's just say there's some changes. There's some changes. So this is an old versus new, in a way, as well as a clone corner. It's kind of a weird one, of the original Vintage Collection 501st Trooper compared to the new one. So yeah, there's a... you might be able to tell already there is one big difference. But let's bring out the card back for the new one, because I always like showing the card backs on new Clone Trooper reviews. And yeah, here's the card back. It's an odd one, because this is a Clone Wars Clone Trooper, 501st Legion. And for the first time, pretty much ever, they have used the actual Clone Wars CGI animation artwork for the card back, instead of a realistic interpretation. That's interesting to me. It's definitely interesting. And it is actually its own VC number, even though it is, for the most part, besides a couple differences, pretty much just from the neck up, a reissue. So yeah, cool card. I do like the blue. It does make it look nice. But we're mostly here for these figures. So yeah, the old one I think looks goofy as all heck. I've never really been too big of a fan of this. Mostly because of that helmet, man. It's huge, it's squishy, it's huge and it is squishy, and if you take it off, it has not only an iffy likeness, it's an iffy likeness to Bodhi Taylor. Like, I always felt like this likeness was always kind of iffy, but it's also very, very pale. Like, it's about my skin tone, and that is just incorrect. It's a very pale, very small, very weird-looking face. I've never thought this even looked much like Bodhi Taylor. I don't think it's a good choice. It doesn't make sense for it to be Bodhi Taylor at this point in the Clone Wars. If it's a seasoned 501st, 501st are the best. They wouldn't be younger clones, I would imagine. And yeah, once you put this massive bucket on, it's huge, and it takes up so much of him. Like, you don't even have a neck anymore. There is no neck. I do have to say, though, the paint is nice on this helmet. The paint is very nice and crisp. It's lined up where it should be. It looks great. It's just way too big. Way too big. So the rest of the body, it is that newer clone mold, as we've seen. It's not a lot of shoulder articulation on this older version. It has the up and down hinge on the left for some reason, and always has these hands that kind of struggle to hold the weapons. But yeah, he's got some striping on the legs there. He does have the blue cuffs. He does have a little bit of blue sort of smudged on his back. Yeah, I mean, it's, from the neck down, not a bad clone. How I actually have had this thing displayed for about 10 years, I popped the head off, and I kind of rested at the top. And then, that way, he at least has a neck. But, you don't even have to move the head because the helmet's so big, it'll actually just, look, the head's not even moved. The helmet will just rotate independently from the head. It's ridiculous. But yeah, that is the original one. New one, then. First, let's compare the bodies. Because one thing I was very surprised at is how identical the deco is. You can see all the scuffs and everything are in the same spots. The newer one is glossier. It does have glossier paint. But you can see the striping too. All the little nicks out of the paint are pretty much in the same spots. Maybe ever so slightly different, but they're in the same spots. It does have the paint beneath the boots. It actually does have different paint on the back. It doesn't have the blue smudge, because in the Clone Wars animated show, for whatever reason, they didn't have the blue on the back. So this one just has some black detailing, which I think looks nice. I do prefer that blue on the back, though. You can see same deco for the smudges and everything. It's pretty much the same. There is a slight difference of the white plastic. I feel like the newer one is a little more whiter. But that could just be the age on this one, because clones do get a little dirty over time, not only in the actual, entertainment, but also with our action figures. But one thing that's very notable is the helmet. It's a lot smaller, isn't it? This helmet is a lot smaller. It's also very oddly shaped, and it also isn't really painted right. You can see, one thing I really don't like about a lot of new clone helmets, you can see the print. They just like stamp on the print now. Number one, let's line up that helmet so we can see like that brow on the top is straight. The rest of it isn't very straight. And you can see the sculpt doesn't line up with the black on the mouth. It just looks kind of weird, man. Not a fan. It's like, look at that angle right there. That looks very odd. And if we remove the head, so there is a problem with this. The helmet, because it is smaller, oh my goodness, I'm actually doing it. Ooh! I actually haven't been able to do that before. I'd heat it up. So the helmet is not only smaller, but it's also very rigid. So this is only the second time this head has shown itself. It's actually still a little wet for whatever reason, probably from how I basically heated it up, and then when I put it back on, I cooled it down by running it under water, and I think there's still a little bit of water caught in there. Yeah, you can see a little bit of sheen of some water in there. I don't know if you can. Also says N on the inside. Does it say N on the old one? It does! So it's almost like it's the same mold, actually. So that's interesting. You can see there are some paint scuffs. It probably has taken a little bit of paint. Here, let's look at the head on the new one. Yeah, it's taken, because it's so small, it's taken a little bit of paint off of the head there. But looking at these heads, there is quite the difference. Yeah, this is the new Temuera Morrison likeness, and it is absolutely amazing. And I love it. It is such a good likeness to Temuera Morrison, and it's a very nice head size as well. It just makes the figure look so much more proportionate. But unfortunately, with this smaller helmet, it does make it look better with the helmet on, but you're kind of left with, struggling to even see this Temuera Morrison head. Actually, the smaller helmet fits very nice on the smaller head, so that actually might be something I consider doing. And the massive helmet actually fits very nice and smooth on the new head, and I actually think that looks a little bit better because he actually has a neck. But guess what? There's a plot twist, guys. So, what I have with this new one is a variation. Because I decided to buy two of the new 501st, and excuse his lack of weapon. They do come with both the rifle and the carbine. I just have one with one and one with the other. Those are very standard. We've seen those for 10 years. I'm not going to talk about those. But this one, the helmet on him is larger. It is a larger helmet than the one I got here. Look at that. You can see it's larger. If I touch the chins, it's larger. Look at that. That's so weird. And if we compare it to this is still a more rigid plastic, and this is very soft, but it's about the same size as the old one. So is this like a production error? Is this a running change? I'm not sure. And with this larger helmet, even though it is more rigid, if we get in focus, if we put that on the head, sure, it is still a bit of a tight fit, but it's easier to get it off. And I don't feel like it's taking as much paint with it. So, basically, there's two different versions of this new 501st. There's a big helmet and a small helmet. So yeah, with the small helmet, it does look better proportionally. With the big helmet, you can at least take it off better. You can see again, though, on my big helmet version, that print is just so wonky. I zoomed in way too far, but let's look at this. You can see the mouthpiece is like way off center. You can see it's not lined up with that sculpt almost at all. Man, it's so disappointing. Look at that. You can see the part of the visor that would be right by the nose, which is right above where it would be by the mouth, where that kind of connects right there, that upside down Y. You can see that it's totally bleeding onto the part that shouldn't be bleeding onto. It should be more filled out. Yeah, man. I think Hasbro really needs to work on their helmet printing because I really hate how these clones almost consistently now look wonky. When back in the day, I don't feel like this is printed on as much as it is painted on. That looks clean. That looks consistent. That looks good. Sure, I think the blue might be a little off, but at least the black and the mouth look better. And the mouth is just solid black, too. The mouth should have venting detail. What are you doing, Hasbro? Ah! So, there we go. There is not only our new versus old on the 501st, the Vintage Collection one, but also a look at this very odd variation. You can see right here, the one on the left has a smaller helmet, and it is a noticeably smaller helmet. I will probably keep the smaller helmet one with the helmet on, because I do think it looks better with that helmet on. But man, I think I could let this Tamora Morrison face shine. Look at that. That just looks amazing, man. That just looks so good. I love how Vintage Collection can still have clones with movable helmets, but Black Series is like, what? We gotta glue that helmet on. The cost of painting and like showing that extra head is just too much. Gotta love it. So there we go. There is a look at the new 501st Clone Trooper. Do I highly recommend it? I mean, if you want to build a 501st Army, I recommend it. Get as many as you want because this is the easiest way to get 501st Troopers. They will sell out very fast. This thing probably has a very, very short production life. Knowing Hasbro, after this video, you maybe have another month of being able to order this fairly easily, and then good luck. It's 501st, man. People want it. People want it. That's why I decided to get two, because I'm like, I'll at least bolster my army a little bit. Just get a couple of this new one, and I'm happy I did, because I ended up with a variation. So, with that, there we go. Highly recommend this if you want to collect the 501st Army. But if you're looking for the best 501st figure, I would recommend going and getting the antenna mold one that was released in various Saga Legends lines throughout the, late 2000s, early 2010s. That's the definitive for me. But this one's not bad. I do feel like the improvements from the neck up really do help. Unfortunately, I do feel like that the helmet printing does hold it back a bit. But overall, man, it's not a bad figure. It's not a bad mold. I just wish we would have a new one by now. Alrighty, guys, there we go. Thank you so much for watching. Special shout out to the patrons of Patreon. Thank you all so much for the continued support. And there we go, guys. Have a good one, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.